right? But when we send a balloon up to 120,000 feet, there's the horizon, straight and at eye level.
Hello guys, David Vos here. It is a beautiful day here in Oklahoma, and I hope you're having a beautiful day where you are. Friends, I'm going to get right into it. We are not going to ramble on, getting right to the point. Here's a man on your screen that is advocating there is a flat earth. And he says that, now here, we were talking yesterday about how they're always saying that the horizon meets the eye. It always comes to eye level. This seems to be one of those little phraseologies they use all the time. It seems to me to be very confusing for a lot of us. But the one thing I can tell you that he's trying to tell you by that picture behind him is that that is a flat horizon. Now, it definitely looks flat. But I want you to look at something. Because I know, and this is hard to say, because I do not like to disparage anyone's character. But I must say it. This is the truth. That man is lying right straight to your face. I don't know if it's because he wants money. He's gone to his head and he believes it. I don't know. But I'm telling you that if you look down in that picture, you will see rivers. You will see areas down there. That is not very high. It may look high. Well, he says that he's showing you a picture of the earth at 120,000 feet. But what he doesn't tell you is that you've got to go higher than that to see the curvature of the earth. And with the picture that he's showing you there, the way he's showing it, it doesn't appear to be any curvature. And it wouldn't probably at 120,000 feet. Now, if you could really take a look, you might, if you could do a 360-degree panoramic look, you might see there is a curvature even at 120,000 feet. But not in that picture. And that's disingenuous. But I'm going to show you that when you go higher than that, you will see a curvature. And you can't see the curvature of the earth that high. And I'm going to show you that. And he knows it because, you know, if he didn't know it, then he shouldn't be putting out videos. So let me just show you that right away. We're going to get right into this. As you can see, there have been people that have gone up in balloons thousands of feet in the air, and they've gone high enough to where you can see, beyond any doubt, the curvature of the earth. And that proves it once and for all. If you find, and you have an actual picture of the curvature of the earth, then it proves it. If you can get back far enough to actually see the round globe. Am I right? Well, I'm going to show you that here. But I want to point out, just before we show you that picture, this is just a couple seconds, hang on. He says he was up 120,000 feet. That's not far enough, and he knows it. Now, that is what it looks like if you pull back. If you zoom out just a little bit further, you'll see that even at that altitude, it's still a pretty big earth. It's hard to see the curvature, but you can definitely see the curvature at this point. Because he didn't just zoom all the way out. He just showed you a picture behind him and said, see, it's flat. That's so disingenuous. It's to the point of a lie. Now take a look at a couple of more of these shots where you zoom out. These are real pictures. This is not CGI, my friends. All right, here is a picture that is a lot further out. It's higher in elevation than the picture that he had behind him. And you can still almost imagine it's flat. It's not much of a curvature even at this altitude. But watch as we pull out and you will see that it is, there you go. You see, as you go out and you get further out from the earth, you've got to get thousands and thousands of feet in the air because the earth is so big you can't tell that it is curved. Now friends, I am going to go full speed ahead. We're going to cover a whole bunch of information about this supposed flat earth, and we're going to prove beyond any shadow of a doubt. I challenge anyone who believes in the flat earth to watch this all the way through with an open mind. Keep your eyes open, your heart open, and don't be afraid to see the truth. And I have to do this, guys, because this is too important. This is not something we can just say, well, let's just pretend some crazy, crazy thing that we believe in now just because we have some, self-styled guru halfway, all the way on the other side of the earth in Australia telling the world that they're all stupid, that if they don't live like him and believe everything that he says, then they're stupid and they're not even fit to become a human being. Or I guess is what he's trying to say. He's got no patience for any of these individuals like myself. Now listen, I don't want to, okay, I'm starting off on the wrong foot here. Let's make peace. Here's the deal. I am going to make this video, and I'm going to dedicate this to all flat earthers, and I love you all, because I think on many points that flat earthers have a lot in common with myself. And I think that we are friends. I think that we are on the same page on a lot of issues. And there is this particular person that lives in Australia that I'm making this video for, primarily, and not for him, obviously. Why would I do that? It didn't, well, I would do it for any human being. This is for everyone. I love him as a brother. But I am saying that I'm going to call him out by name because of the fact that I am asking him, if I do that, and maybe somebody will get this video to him and he'll watch it. And if it doesn't convince him, and it just riles him up even more, and he's saying, that doggone idiot, I don't want anything to do with that guy. He's so stupid. All right, fine. But now it's gone, hopefully, viral. And you're going to have to face some of these things and answer some of the things that I put down in this video. Now, I know you're a smart man, Santos. I know you're a smart man and you're brilliant. And I love you, brother. And I'm not calling you out because I'm trying to make money or something. I don't think, my odds are this isn't going to make anybody any money. The important thing is that we want to know the truth. And you're the man. You're the man that everybody's listening to, Santos. And so I have to ask you, please present your best evidence and let me counter it. You make a video. I made a video and I'm calling you, putting your name down here, and I'm saying I'm doing this, and I want you to make a video. And then somebody can show me, hey, he made a video, and show it to me, and I'll watch it. And you can give me all your evidence. Okay? And I know it'll be great, because you're a great video maker. And you have a lot of intelligence. And you and I both know that the Bible's about astrology. And you talk about theology or astrotheology all the time. And it's brilliant, brother. But what we want to know is the earth round or is it flat? I say it's not flat. I'm not going to say it's round because I have other ideas that we're not going to get into at this juncture. I mean, for all practical purposes, I do believe that all the math and science fits with the equations, Newtonian physics and all of that, fits with the math that the earth is a sphere. But there's a little more to it, but we're not going to get into that little bit more. Unless you want to, and then in later video, Santos. And if you don't want to make a video or acknowledge that I made this video, naming you and presenting these analyses that I'm presenting, and asking you to make another video to counter those analogies and the analysis that I have made and the observations that I'm going to make in this video, I'm asking you, take a look at the stuff I'm saying. Please watch the whole video, Santos, with an open heart and an open mind and with love in your heart, as I have for you. And I mean no disrespect, but let us two sit together and get to the bottom of this. You and I will duke it out in words. I mean, with love. You'll give me your arguments and I'll counter argue my arguments. And we'll see if we can either convince each other, or if what we're saying as we counter argue and as we present the evidence, as we talk, the audience will decide. Now look, you've already got a running start, because all the people that's going to watch this are going to be people that are flat earthers, usually, mostly, right? And there's going to be others that might watch it for entertainment. So most of the people that's going to watch this is going to be on your side. to start with. And so I'm going to have an uphill battle to convince all these flat earthers. And I decided the best way I can do that is take it right to the source of the guru who teaches it. And brother, I'm being very, very sincere with this offer. Will you please counter the things I say in this video? Watch it carefully. It's just a simple video. I made some simple observations. And then you counter it with another video. And then I will watch it. And then I'll counter it. Or maybe we could do a show together and talk about it face to face after we, discuss this a little bit or something like that. We'll come to some agreement as to what we'll do. But I think we need to get to the bottom of this. So now watch a little bit more of this video, my friend, and then tell me what you think.
That's because they've been indoctrinated to think that this is flat Earth. No, this is not flat Earth. Flat Earth is not a disk floating in space. Flat Earth is more like a pond, right? All of the continents, the islands, are surrounded by water, but all of the water has a container, and that container is the shoreline of Antarctica. Antarctica is the highest land on Earth, and it contains the world pond.
I'm sorry, but this is just insane. Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me? It's like a child. This is childish. Santos, this is childish. Oh, don't listen to all these people on the internet that are trying to say that we're all ridiculous and stupid, and they throw up all these pictures and say, oh, we're so stupid because we think that the flat Earth looks like this picture here, like a little flat Earth hanging up in space. Oh, well, that's not what we believe. No, we believe that it's a pond? So there's a pond circled by a mountain range of snow, and that's floating in space? Please, Santos, tell me what it is that you guys are trying to say. And how it is that we're supposed to take you seriously. Listen, at this point, I know this is gonna make you angry. You're not even gonna want to probably even counter this video because you're just so angry with me. But please understand me and forgive me. To me, I can't comprehend this, Santos. You're a brilliant man. And you and some of these others are saying that maybe you don't believe exactly like this guy. And I'm sure that you guys have differences. I know that you talk about torus fields and Agartha and all of this stuff and the cosmology of the scriptures. Do you know, friend, that I believe in the cosmology of the scriptures, but I don't believe it has anything to do with the flat Earth? There are no pillars holding up the sky, my friend. That is symbolic. It's about astrology, as you must know. But it makes me ponder how a man who is so brilliant could come to the point where you could believe that this is just a big pond that we're floating around on, circled by some ice wall, and then never tell me what is beyond the ice wall. Well, I don't know. Some people have said it's, maybe there's other lands, right? Maybe it's an infinite plane. Do you believe that, Santos? Could you give me some serious explanation as to why you believe that? Because now there we might have something in common, Santos. Because I have a way, and I won't say it here. What I actually believe, you probably, I don't know if you've ever heard what I've been saying, that there is a wormhole on both the North and the South Poles. And in our physics, and in our little illusion, in this world that we live in, it does appear to be a sphere. But you can go into another dimension. You walk right through that hole at the North and the South Poles. And so, by virtue of that, it is possible that in some other way of looking at the universe, that it only appears to be round. You know how Einstein talks about how E equals mc squared and light is warped by mass? Is it possible that there is a infinite plane that is warped into our perspective in this consciousness that we're in, living on this particular physical plane that this computer model has created for us, that it for all practical purposes appears to be spherical, but that all of this physical reality warps back into light, and then does a little whoop wormhole and goes into another reality, so that in some way you could actually say that it's a kind of infinite plane. But when you walk so far out of, let's say that every conscious mind is connected with every other conscious mind, and we're the source, we're the center. And so as we think and image, our thoughts go out and put around us the world that we live. It would kind of be like a sphere or a realm that we live in, our own thoughts. But that as we take a paradigm shift of consciousness, we, boom, go into another dimension. That's another way of saying that beyond our sphere called the earth, there might be this wormhole that if you were the divine Father of heaven looking down, you might think it's just one eternal sphere with levels of consciousness, but you're really just walking down a flat, infinite plane in some sense. It's just that as you're walking, you go out of your own sphere of consciousness and into another sphere of consciousness. Now, I probably butchered that because I'm just throwing that out there. But that's all I'm going to say about that here. And if you want to talk about that as well, perhaps that would fit better with what your cosmology. Maybe that's a place of commonality that we might be able to talk about. Because I don't want to just sit here and laugh at your theories and then you come back and laugh at mine. But I want to know, honestly, do you really believe, Santos, that we're living in a pond, a flat pond, with little continents floating around in this big pond, and around the perimeter is this big ice wall? If so, I want to know, what do you think is beyond the ice wall? And I want to know more, and just clear, not, some bunch of obscurity and vagueness, but just tell me, what do you think this world is? And perhaps, maybe you will say you don't know, but it's just not round, but you just think it must be flat, at least as far as we know, right? Maybe that's what you'll say. If so, I want to know more. I want to know why in the world you would just assume it's got to be flat. Are you just going particularly about your view of the eschatology and the cosmology of the ancient ones and Agartha and stuff? Or is it that there is something more that you know? Oh, and by the way, before I forget, I just want to say to point out that he said something else inaccurate. And it's very important. He said that the mountains in the Antarctic are the highest mountains in the world. And I guess what he was saying is that, and I've heard this before, that they talk about this wall. There are mountains in the Antarctic that are higher than any other mountains. But they're not all that high. Okay? And this ice wall does not go all the way around. But isn't that beside the point? Because if there was a wall of ice there, that is not going to somehow magically explain how it is scientifically that we live on a flat earth. That doesn't make any sense. We still need to know what's beyond the wall and why there's a wall. Now, continue watching, please, Santos. And yes, all of you, watch this and tell me what you think.
Large bodies of water at rest lay flat.
All right, let's start here. I know this is something that you must espouse. I mean, all the flat earthers are saying that the water level's got to stay level. Okay, I guess you just don't believe there's anything called gravity, or you don't understand about E equals MC squared, or you don't agree with Einstein in the sense that as something gains mass, there has to be a reason why it's gaining weight and mass. It's because it's warping the energy and light around it. And as the mass grows, it pulls more. And that is what we call gravity. Do you not agree with me, Santos? And, all right, now here is a little few clips in regard to this. Because a lot of people are saying that they went out and measured it. And there is no curvature to the earth because they got on a large body of water surface. And they went out so many miles and it's still level. There is no curvature. And I will show you absolute photographic evidence that there is a curvature Of course, this Earth, I think, is much, much larger than what people want to understand. You can't notice the curvature of the Earth just by going out a mile or something. But take a look at these pictures. As you can see there, the lighthouse is below the water. Now, it looks really weird because you can see the water right there. You can see the waves. I mean, we're just not looking, we're not looking at water that's all the way near that lighthouse. We're looking at the water that's kind of in between the lighthouse and the shore. And it just looks like this swell of water, but that's because you focused in on it. It's much higher. Because if the Earth was flat, you could see that lighthouse is up on the ground above the water. But you can't see the ground or the rock area that lighthouse is sitting upon there. That shows a curvature. Look at the rest of this. Look at this point here.
So there's the same ship from the top of the hill.
So here again, when you're down at the level of the water and you look over at that ship with a very good zoom lens, you can't see the bottom of the ship. But again, you can see the waves way up high, halfway up the ship. Then he goes up on an area on land above so he can get above the curvature of that distance there between him and the ship. And he sees all the way down to the bottom where the ship is in the water. Now you might say, oh, well, that doesn't account for the curvature of the Earth because it's much more than that. Well, all right, let's just say you're right. Maybe it should be more than that. I'm willing to say that the Earth might be bigger than they are saying it is, but look, I don't know. I haven't actually done these experiments myself. I'm just looking at some pictures here. You tell me. But it does certainly look like there is a curvature there. And so I don't think that just some person out there, taking their camera to the beach and taking pictures is going to prove scientifically that there is no curvature of the Earth. What do you think, Santos? And let's continue to watch because I want to show you something else here.
If I get on a plane and I just keep flying east, what will happen, do you think?
You will end up right back to where you started from because east and west are circles. The flat Earth is not a disk floating in space. It's a circular pond. Antarctica is the shoreline of that pond. If you have I have a magnet here in the center, and as I'm pushing it east, or this is going west, I have to keep turning to keep that needle pointed towards the center. East and west are circles. This does not prove the Earth is flat because it works the same on a ball.
So he rightly says that this doesn't prove whether the Earth is flat because this little thing he's doing there, he said, would be the same if it was a ball or if it was a disc. Except for one thing. Everybody's talking about flying an airplane and how airplanes are not, they put them on autopilot or something, and they're able to just keep flying and nobody has to keep pulling the nose up. Right? Or pointing the nose down because it's got to go down over the horizon if the Earth is round. And they're saying, why wouldn't the airplane just fly right off the Earth if it was really round? Well, here's my question. If you're flying around in a circle around the center point of this flat Earth called the North Pole, wouldn't you keep going straight, or wouldn't you have to have something inside your autopilot computer code that would keep it on a circular pattern? They don't have that in airplanes. So you see, obviously this is not proving anything, but just the opposite. That it would literally be impossible for an airplane to keep flying straight and not fly right off the flat Earth instead of going around in a circle like you're supposed to. However, what people don't understand is that in aerodynamics, if you're flying around an Earth with gravity of the airplane, I mean, they have a rudder as well, but that's not necessarily for altitude. Naturally going to want to fall towards the Earth. and plunge down into the ocean and be lost. So you got to keep your nose up. And it isn't just by pulling the nose up. I mean, that's disingenuous. You don't pull the nose up. You have wings. You have lift, aerodynamics. And the way that you keep the plane level or at a certain altitude is not by pulling the nose up.
Tail
it's simply by keeping the power at a certain level, making the thrust to be at a certain pressure on the bottom of the wings that's going to keep it at that altitude. Autopilot doesn't keep you at a level or in an altitude. It's the engine throttle. It's the thrust and the air pressure that keeps you at an altitude. So that explains why airplanes don't just go off into the space and fly right off the Earth when the Earth is round. But do you have an explanation on your flat Earth model of how planes, when they're flying around in this circle around the North Pole on the flat disk, why is it they're not flying off the flat Earth? Now, I can anticipate that you might say, if you, maybe you never even thought of that before, and your mind might be scrambling. Well, what am I going to do? That doesn't sound right. I didn't think of that. So maybe then you would say, well, now, this guy had already answered it. He says that there's a magnetic pole, the North Pole. The compass points to the North Pole, and they set their compass on the plane to navigate at a certain line around the North Pole. Maybe there's something in the navigation system of the plane that does that, that keeps it a certain distance from the north. So they set their little compass on the plane to go due east, and that would just take the plane around naturally that way. But here's the problem. It's just like when you guys say that water always levels out. There's nothing you can do about that except there's gravity, and that, you know, you're not taking into consideration velocity and gravity and the dynamics of equilibrium. And that's why the water stays flat against the circle of the Earth. So, by the same token, aeroplanes, if they're going to go west or east, they're going around straight. They don't think they're going in a circle. So they don't have to set the compass to continue to correct. So when they set the compass to go east or west, they just set it to go east. It takes off. It doesn't keep correcting the plane to keep going further and further north when they're going east so that they can make sure they go around the circle. It just doesn't do that. And if I'm wrong, and you can show me evidence that they have that in their navigational system on an airplane, then please let me know. By the way, that's also another point. If you were going in an airplane and the winds picked up and started pushing you, then the automatic pilot would put more engine thrust. Not just to keep the present speed of the plane, but to keep the present altitude, because that's how it works with airplanes. You lose altitude by means of adjusting the propulsion of the engine, the thrust, against the wind. Whatever the wind might do, it may change. So there may be, in an automatic pilot, they definitely have a way to detect the pressure and the lift and all of that, and it adjusts the idle or the RPMs of the engine. You know, I'm probably not explaining this real well, but I think I'm explaining this well enough to understand that the plane just has to adjust the RPMs and various things like that to stay at an altitude. It doesn't have to pull the nose up at a certain specific angle per square mile to keep it going around the Earth, because it doesn't do that. It doesn't need to do that. So anyway,
there was videos of people doing science, putting balloons up with a camera that doesn't have a fisheye lens on it, like a GoPro lens, a wide angle lens. And they were using these cameras that didn't have those. The horizon rose to eye level, which would be impossible on a ball that would be falling away from you as you rose up.
A lot of people have different kind of cameras than we were being shown before. He calls them fisheye. I know I think what that does is it conjures up in your mind a couple of things that you've probably seen when you've been watching these guys. Stuff like, oh, well, cameras have a lens that's concave or something, or fisheye lenses or something. Well, this isn't making any sense. I've seen cameras my whole life. And I never knew that the cameras that we were using was distorting reality. But somehow or another, they're just saying stuff like that. And, yeah. Oh, the cameras were distorting it. That's why they thought it was round. And somebody was saying, oh, yeah, but you go up in an airplane and it looks round, like the earth is round. And people are like, no, that's because the windows are oval. Huh? Well, wouldn't that mean that everything would look like you're looking, like a fisheye? But it wouldn't just distort the earth itself and the horizon only. Why, it would distort the trees and everything. So that can't be true. I mean, if you're in an airplane, you look out the window, or do you see trees all weird, like going around in a circle and meeting in the middle? Or kind of in a bow or something? Is it distorting reality when you're looking out on the runway and you're seeing people walk by? I don't think so. I don't know, actually. You guys tell me, because I've never ridden in an airplane, so I'm not an expert on that. But as far as I know, people look out the window of an airplane and they see the runway and it looks like a runway. Okay. Now, I could be wrong about that. So there you go. See, there's something we can't say for sure if we don't have truth, or we don't have knowledge of that, and I don't have knowledge of that. But what I am saying is that I can't just listen to somebody say something like generally like that and say, well, all the cameras until recently had fisheye lens. Okay. You might say, well, come on, Dave, that's not exactly what he meant. Or I'm trying to be fair here. So, okay. Maybe I'm exaggerating what he said, but at least my point is made that you can't just generalize. You can't just say, well, this is ridiculous. We now know the truth because we have better cameras. And we all have these phones and we have good cameras. So now we know. Well, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. We don't know anything because we got cameras. I mean, yeah, sure, it can help. Now we can film stuff, but we still don't know what we can't see. And this, most of us aren't flying 30,000 miles in the air and taking pictures. But then he goes on to say, because this doesn't, that's just the first thing out of his mouth that doesn't have backup or any facts. And people are just, oh yeah, I believe that. That's truth. That proves it. Because he's going to say that here in a minute. We'll show some clips. They're going to say, well, this proves it and that proves it. No, these things that they're saying doesn't prove anything. Well, it doesn't prove what they're saying. So that's the first small point that I noticed, that's just generalization, and there's no facts being presented. There's no calculus here. There's no time-honored method of scientific investigative tools being used here. Just generalizations that aren't really true. Excuse me while I take a really big gulp of my coffee, because it sure is good right now. It's kind of hot and sweaty out, and I need fluids. So then he says, okay, so now we're going up there and we're looking way up there in the sky, and we're realizing that, oh, we've been lied to because the horizon always meets the eye. Now, he didn't say it, but I guess what he's saying is it looks flat. So then my mind says, okay, oh, he's talking some big words now. Oh, stand back. The horizon always meets the eye. And he says, which would be impossible if the earth was round. And I'm like, wait a minute. Okay. Hold on. Screw my brain on a little bit tighter, because I don't understand what they're saying. They must be saying something, because they wouldn't be that stupid to just come on and say stupid things that made nothing, out of nothing, that would be no sense. Surely somebody wouldn't come on and say, oh, well, Einstein's a nut, and Newton, Sir Isaac Newton was a crazy man, and Pythagoras didn't know a darn thing. But I am the great man who says that the horizon always meets the eye and therefore it proves it all. Okay, you lost me. What evidence, again, are you pointing out to us? Because you see, what you're not, I guess what you're trying to say, I'm trying to imagine this, And no, I know a lot of people go, oh, you shouldn't be talking about this, Dave, if you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, I get it. I don't know everything that you guys are saying. I haven't followed every little thing that but I'm telling you, I heard what the guy said. That's not true. Or it doesn't mean what he says it means. I mean, the horizon, of course, meets the eye. But what does that prove? Let me show you something. Imagine if I'm 6 foot tall. And and I'm standing on a foot or a basketball. The basketball is, about a foot diameter. Well, first of all, I couldn't stand on the thing, but I'm making a point here. It's too small. But if I was standing on it, then where's the horizon meeting my eye? Well, even on that small of a sphere, there's going to be a horizon. Because you can't see the other side of the basketball, can you? So at some point, you're going to see, what are you going to see? You're going to see a flat disc. You can't see, the only reason you know it's round is because there's shadows, texture, and probably you could reach down and touch it too, right? Okay. But if you couldn't see it very clearly, all you would see is a round ball. And so they're saying, therefore it's a disc. Because you can't tell you can't tell that it's round, so therefore it's a disc. And because somehow or another, if it were round, then it would be impossible for the horizon to meet the eye. I don't know what that means. And it's just more of their jargon, not more, because we haven't covered hardly any of it yet, but this is their jargon that continues on for hours in their videos over and all this stuff that they just talk about, and none of it, they don't put down any math, they don't put down any historical precedences, it doesn't even make sense, it's just stuff that they just say, and therefore. But I want to get through this one first, and then we'll tackle some others. We won't be able to get all of them done, because look, we've gone 25 minutes and we haven't gotten nothing done, because we have to talk about this, and it's going to take some time. But I want to point out at least 5 or 6 different things that they're talking about, big things that shows that they're just not telling the truth. So, now let's say that the ball that we're standing on is a mile diameter. And you're standing on it, you're 6 foot tall, and you're looking down from the top, there's an arch. Well, you're still going to see a line of horizon. It may only be, a mile around you. You're going to look around 360 degrees and, from where you're standing, you got to go a half a mile in any direction, 360 degrees. That's all. The half a mile. Well, in that case, if there was a light that came up around the ball and went around over your head and down the other side, you could tell that very clearly that you were on a round ball, because you could see so much of the ball. You're so big, your perspective is so much bigger that you can tell that it's a round ball. I mean, forget the fact that there's shadows and you can feel the texture of the ball and all that. But just imagine you're kind of blurry. You can't tell that good, right? And you're looking at this disc that you're standing on. Disc or sphere, either one, you can tell that light going around over your head and going down is going around the other side of that disc or ball, whatever it is. And it's coming up and going up in the air again. There's no question. You can see that because of your perspective. So now this guy is saying, well, look, we're looking at the sun and it goes down over there, and it's obvious that it does this and it does that and blah, blah, blah. But hold on. It's obvious if you're pretending that the Earth is just this little bitty ball and you don't know how big 25,000 miles is. 25,000 miles, now you're 6 foot tall and you're standing on the Earth. And you go up into the Earth a couple of miles, and it still looks about the same as when you were on the Earth? Well, it still looks the same, looks flat. Well, that proves it. No. This Earth is so big that size makes a difference. Perspective makes a difference. It doesn't matter how high you get in the air. Your eyes are still going to go to the line of the horizon. But obviously, if you're a mile in the air, you can't see, you might not be able to tell. I mean, there's a certain distance you get up in the air and you're not going to be able to see trees and stuff. It's going to be all blurry. I don't know where that is. In that case, it's just going to look like a disc underneath of you. And then you can't say, well, my eyes are telling me it's a disc, therefore it's a disc. Well, wait a minute. You got other things to observe. There's a sun going around you and it goes down Well, now, if it's only a mile, again, you probably, with your perspective, are going to be able to tell that the sun's going around the other side of that big mile round ball, and you'll be able to see that. But now if the Earth is 25,000 miles, then when the sun goes by, you don't know where it's going. It's just going that way. And it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and it goes into the distance. And then it goes down over the horizon. Well, according to them, it doesn't. But it gets so small that it gets out of the... Well, that could be true if the sun is, like they say, just a small little ball. Just a little round ball. I don't know how big they say it is. I've forgotten what they say. A 3,000 miles or something big ball. I don't know. Instead of, millions of miles. So if the sun is that size, then when it gets that far away, it's going to look smaller. Except that we'll get into that here in a little bit, because they contradict themselves with that particular point here in a little bit. But they say that here in a minute, they show that the round ball gets smaller and smaller as it goes away in a straight line. But as it goes way into the distance, it begins to turn to the right. You can see that. It veers off the perpendicular line. And so they say, well, and obviously, it's going around, and the Earth is a flat disk, and the center is the North Pole, and it's flattened out where the South Pole is. That's the outer edge of the disk. And so therefore, the sun is going around in a circle in the meridian of that, halfway between the center of the disk and the outer edge of the disk. The sun is going around and around in the middle. Well, that's wonderful theory, but how do you prove that? See, you're all upset because they can't prove what they're saying. Well, they do. They have reasons. You just don't know calculus. You just don't know all the ancient historical precedents. You don't know about the formulas that they've been using, the scientific theorems that have worked to scale. How algebra can tell you how far something away is. But since you don't know all of that, it just doesn't make any sense to you. So you say, but look, obviously, the sun is hanging by a string. And then you're like, what's making the sun going around and around if it's a local sun, as they're saying, and it's just up above us, and it gets away from us so far, then no longer does the light shine on the Earth. What law or science tells you that it would do such a thing? What causes the sun, this little round ball, a local sun? What, in your estimation? They never tell us this. They tell us this is what it's doing and this is what they believe, but they never give us any reason why it would do such a thing. Why would the Earth be flat? What laws of physics makes the Earth a disk? Why would it become a disk? Why would it live that way? Why would it exist that way? I know that rocks fall from the sky and hit the ground. I don't understand all of it, but I grasp that it's heavy, and I see that all the solid things are on the ground, and the lighter things are in the air, and rainbows float, and I just sort of accept it and accept the reality of the universe. And then I realize that you can make formulas up to literally predict how fast a stone will fall. I mean, if they're not able to do that, then how have we got locomotion and cars running down the road? And how is it your gas gauge can tell you how much gas is in your tank? What, do they got little eyes in the gas tank? No, because there's laws like pressure and calculus, and they can measure, the pressure times the square inches of the tank and the level of the fuel or whatever. You may not understand it, but they have scientific reasons. There has to be something true, and we have different paradigms, and sometimes we find out that all this stuff that we thought were true isn't all true. We have revelations that change things from time to time. And that's natural. But you can't just start all over now and say, well, you know what, everything I was told is not true. So therefore, let's just say the earth is flat. Somebody said that, so let's go with that. Because, you know, somebody else could say, oh, well, the earth is a big square aquarium. Or, you know, it's whatever. You know, we just come up with all kinds of things. I mean, it's either a sphere or it's flat. There's no other possibilities. So we've got the entire world now demanding, like little spoiled children, you must believe or you're so stupid I don't even want to talk to you anymore. I disfellowship you from my life because you're not a flat earther. But it's not true what this man has said right from the very get-go. But let's continue to listen to what they have to say.
Have you ever seen a time lapse of the sun? Does it look like the earth is rotating backwards and the sun is still? Or does it look like our sun is simply moving across our sky, traveling away from your perspective? Again, but with some inversion. You can clearly see the sun, not only decreasing its size, but heading towards its next destination with a slight turn before it disappears from your line of sight.
Oh, that proves it. See, these are just facts, guys. Look at it. You can see for yourself. See, there's this little line that he draws, and there's a little sun, and that's CGI? Oh, what? Have they lied to us and they put CGI instead of reality to try and tell us something? So, they're using this little cartoon to try and prove to you. What are they trying to prove to you here? That the sun is a little round ball that doesn't go exactly straight, but it definitely goes and it gets smaller and smaller as it finally gets so small that you can't see it anymore. Nah, that makes sense. So it doesn't necessarily have to be going down around the horizon. Okay. But notice it takes and it veers off to the right just a little bit, like we said a little bit ago. All right. So this proves that it does what? That it doesn't really go down over the horizon, but it goes around like a circle on the disk. Is that what they're saying? Well, as we said, this doesn't prove anything. This Earth is 25,000 miles. And if the sun was only a couple thousand miles big, then maybe it would look like that. But what if the sun is actually millions of miles across? See, most people don't realize that the sun is very, very, very large. Then if it looks that small, because it's way over there about 5,000 miles now, as it's going down over the horizon, out of our view, then it wouldn't matter if you used a camera and zoomed in and you could still see the sun, because you see, you're only zooming in, 10 times? And how far are you looking? A mile or two? 10 miles? 20 miles? So maybe you're looking a couple of 100 miles, but this is 25,000 miles, so you're not really proving that the Earth is flat. We're just dealing with, again, generalizations. But then he says that, and he's got these very distinguished CGI lines there for you to see what's going on. Obviously, he's got all the facts here. But you notice that this sun turns to the right just a little bit before it goes out of sight. So therefore, it must be making a circular pattern. It's not going down over the horizon, he says. Proof. No, because it might look like something like that, maybe, if that were the case, but you still haven't asked or answered why it would do that. What law causes the sun to go around and around like a corkscrew over our head? What causes it to have motion in that particular way? What causes to stay above the earth? What causes it to do this or that or any of this stuff? Is it hanging by a string from the middle? Right? And there's a string they got it tied to Polaris, and then it's going around and around like a ball like a tether ball on a pole? Well, then who's batting that ball around, and why does it come around with such precision that we can calculate the seasons and the days and the years to perfection for thousands of years? And besides, most of these flat earthers believe in Scripture, do they not? Does it not say in the Bible that God created the heavens and the earth and the sun and the moon for signs and for seasons? So I guess they would say, well, see, there you go. That's proof, all the proof we need. The Bible's, you know, the end of it, the end of the matter. And it says that God created them and God set them in motion. And therefore it's like a clock that he made and he wound it up and they took off. And you don't have to ask why, but God did it. Well, now you got me. See, if you can start throwing your interpretation of the Bible in there, then where am I going to go from there? I just don't happen to have the same interpretation of the Bible. I don't believe the 6 days of creation were literal. I don't believe that everything in the Bible has to be literal. That doesn't mean that I don't believe it's true. I just don't agree that settles the matter, that God wound it up and started it spinning and God's up there watching it, and because of his will, because he willed it to be, it's going to continue to go around and around and around and never slow down. Because if that's the case, then why is it that when I throw a rock off of a cliff and it lands at the bottom of the canyon, I say that it was a force of gravity that made it do that? I don't think God's standing up there saying with his mind, now rock fall at a certain speed because I said so. And God is monitoring the speed of the rock because he's constantly willing it to do that. I think there are laws that make things do what they do. And I think you could determine, if you knew the law and you knew as Newton says, he had these laws, physical laws of the world that were axioms. And he says that there was such a thing as inertia and speed and velocity, and every action has an opposite reaction, and there's these things, male and female. You know, I've seen it happen. They attract. You know, opposites attract. This is just a law. Okay? So what law says that a big round ball, a local 3,000-mile ball, blazing hot, evidently, because you can feel the heat, right, is going to go circling around up in the sky, and the law of the universe says it must be a disk, and it must be a round ball, and it's going to go around and around, and of course the moon's going to go around and around in such a way that it's going to wane and wax, and you see, we've got all this explained in a circular, spherical Earth model. It makes sense. Why that there is a half moon and a crescent moon and a full moon and some moons are new moons, but do they have any evidence for why the moon would wax and wane? If there's a sun wandering around just a few miles above us and a moon doing it too, why? Why are they moving? They don't answer why. They just say it is. And so the reason in the spherical model that the sun seems to be going to the right as it goes towards, off the other end of the horizon, is because the Earth is in motion. So you see, we're going around the sun, not just spinning, but we're also going around the sun. So in the time that it takes for the sun to get all the way over there, we've already started going around the sun just a little bit. So there are reasons, and it really does have to do with your perspective. But let's continue on watching this.
We're told that the sun is a massive ball of burning gas 93 million miles away. But if that were true, then all the light that arrives here would be parallel because it's so far away. And it has to be parallel because one of the most often cited supposed globe proofs is Eratosthenes' experiment between Alexandria and Syene, by which he calculated the size of the Earth. For that calculation to be accurate, the light must come down parallel. The only problem is that that's not what we see. If you go out on a sunny day with broken cloud, what you'll see is that light comes down at angles, diverging angles. And that means that we can follow those light rays back to the source and triangulate the sun's height above the Earth, proving that the sun isn't millions of miles away.
Oh my goodness, you see, this is supposed to be science. And simple observations that people make are now absolute, accredited, total, and perfect science that must go down in our textbooks and taught to every child in school. Because this man showed you a picture of light rays coming from the sky without the benefit of knowing thousands of years of science and history that's been built up over the years that has taught us about refraction and the Earth's atmosphere and so forth. First of all, he's not telling you or giving you the perspective that the sun is very, very large. The sun is almost 3 million miles around, and the Earth is only 25,000 miles. And I don't think the average person understands the difference between 1,000 miles and 1,000,000 miles. This is a lot more. The sun, then, if it were what they say it is, 3 million miles around, that is a very big sun. Then when you think about the sun being 94 million miles away, now it doesn't seem so odd that it looks so big in the sky, because it is 3 million miles around. Now, I know you might say, well, that's just so big. That's ridiculous. There's no way it could be that big, Dave. Oh, I don't know. The Earth is 25,000 miles around, and we know it is. We can get in a boat, and we can go thousands of miles. We know these darn things are big. So when you start using geometry, friends, it does come out. It does. Let's say you put a stake in the ground over here, and then the shadow goes over here. And so you can make these triangulations. You use geometry. You can figure out that there's so many miles between the Earth and the sun. Now, when you put that all down on paper, that the sun is 3 million miles around, the Earth is 25,000 miles, that, then the distance is 93 or 94 million miles. All works out perfectly on paper. It's math. And there's a lot of more figures going into this. A lot of things that are being understood by scientists. The air pressure, the refraction of the sunlight and so forth that we're going to talk about in a second. All these things that they've studied for thousands of years, and it all fits perfectly. I mean, yes, there are things we're learning, and we make mistakes, and there are paradigms that shift. But to just come out and say, well, look at that, see, that can't be true. And you're thinking, well, yeah, it does look kind of weird, so maybe it's not true. That's just not good science. So then he says that we can prove that the sun's not 94 million miles away because we can triangulate with these light rays coming down. You can see the angle of the light rays, and they're going all up to a pinnacle, and there's the sun right there in the sky. Well, he's saying, and I don't know, he's got these big words, I don't know if this is a scientific thing, but he's saying that the light rays have got to be coming parallel. I'm not really sure what that means. Because, you see, the light that's going to hit that stick is the only line that we're going to understand. We don't care about all these other lines veering off all over the place. So what is that point that all those lines, those rays of light coming out of the clouds, what are they leading to? They're not leading to the sun. They're leading to where the sun hits the atmosphere and refracts. Because what he's not telling you is that the sun is just energy. It doesn't make, you can't see it. You don't see light. It's invisible. So what you're looking at, those rays, that's not the sun. You can't triangulate the rays of the sun because those are just refractions. And they start when the sunlight hits the atmosphere. Then they go through the little bubbles of water and the air, and it refracts. And that's why you get rainbows and things. Because, I see a rainbow right here. You could be 50 miles down the road and see another rainbow. You're seeing the rainbow because it's refracting above your head. I'm seeing the rainbow because it's refracting above my head, because the center above me, the very central zenith above my head, is where the light's going to refract toward my eye. So the light is going through into the atmosphere all around the world. And every person, wherever they're at in the world, if they're standing there in the daytime and it's kind of rainy and they see, the rays of the sun refracting through the clouds, no matter where they're at, it's going to look the same. Now, let's say that you're 1,000 miles away For me, I look up and I see the pinpoint where the refractions are coming down. And you're 1,000 miles or 2 or 3, 5,000 miles away, and you look up and you see the same thing. You said that the sun is a local thing. But in actuality, we've proven it's not local at all. Because even though we're 5,000 miles apart, we both see the sun exactly straight overhead. Why? Because the fact that it's so many millions of miles away from the earth, that no matter where you are on the earth, it looks like it's above us, straight above us. And so the refraction's going to hit right directly above us through the clouds. It's going to make those rays, are going to make an angle. And that pinnacle where the refraction is not pointing to the local location of the sun that's millions of miles away. It's pointing to where the light hits the atmosphere. And because of the angle that I am to the curvature of the atmosphere, that's the point that the light refracts for me. It's going to have a different point for you if you're 5,000 miles away. You're going to see it above your head 5,000 miles different than I'm going to see it. Which actually proves that it may be a round earth. Well, at least the sky is in an arc. Okay, that it's not a glass dome. Come on. There's no glass dome. Why would there be glass in the air? Who made the glass, and why is all of a sudden glass in the air now? I thought glass was like made out of sand, right? And sand is dirt, and it's on the ground. Let's not get carried away. There's no glass in the sky. Unless, of course, this really is a Truman Show, and somebody came down with their hammer and a chisel and a circular saw and built the darn thing like that. I don't think if God or anyone built this earth, and it's a Truman Show, which might not be a bad idea, that they built it out of sticks and stones, which may break my bones. But words will never hurt me. But yet words can make the world, because it says in the Bible, if you're a believer in Scripture, you'll believe in Scripture that says that He made the universe from His Word, and He spoke it, and it said, let it be. So He didn't make arbitrary laws that don't fit, mix and match. Well, there's gravity here, but there's no gravity there. There's rocks on the ground, but all of a sudden rocks stay in the air, right? He built with a chisel and a hammer, he built a glass dome. This is ridiculous. So what is the light refracting? How does it refract? You can get light to refract from a crystal, or you can have a dome, and that's what makes it so hot. You know, if you've ever taken a magnifying glass and you're talking about the parallel lines of the sun coming, and you're trying to understand something, you have no idea what you're talking about. But if you get a round dome or a concave or a convex glass, you can start a fire, because you can direct the sun's energy into one focal point. And that's why you see this ray of light. It's a focal point of the light, because it's refracting through the dome of the atmosphere, not the glass dome, my friends. This is scientific. This is real. And we've been studying these since before Pythagoras. And you come along in your little breeches, right, with your suspenders, drinking your moonshine that you made out there in the hills in Tennessee, you know, and you discover for the first time you're smarter than Pythagoras, Aristotle, Newton, all the greats. You have sat down and you went to the drawing board, right? You did some research on Google. And you saw rays coming from the sky, and you said, I'm going to triangulate the sun's rays, and I'll tell you that the sun is only a couple of thousand miles in the sky. Well, you know, why is it that when you say such things, you never give us the figures? Tell us the actual math. Let's have it. Write it down. Tell me the formula. And then do something like make a locomotive and make it work. Right? Put a satellite in the sky. Oh, they don't have satellites in the sky, Dave. Are you a daft? Are you ignorant? No, but I am using a phone that is using satellite technology. Yes, there is an AI that's about to take over the world, and Satan has knowledge, but it's not spiritual truth. It's just technological mumbo-jumbo garbage. It's like, oh, I can run a wire from here to there, put 2 tin cans at either end, and talk into one side, and you can hear me on the other. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff the devil makes. Our Father in heaven makes a beautiful paradise because of his love, because of his brightness, because of his light and truth. And he makes the laws of the universe. You're using the laws of the universe, you scoundrel devil, you, to create replicas of his glorious inventions, which you plan on using to enslave all mankind, but you will not be able to do it. You will fail. But anyway, let's take a little gander at what else this guy has to say.
It doesn't take a genius to understand that the further the light source goes up, the more the sun rays would spread out and become parallel. The reason you'd even think that the sun...
If the Earth was flat, wouldn't it be sunny all the time? I mean, have they ever even thought about it?
To put that in perspective, imagine a table 2 meters wide in a completely dark room. And you're holding a small but very bright light bulb, 3.4 millimeters across. And you were holding it about 31 centimeters above the table. What you'd see is a circular pool of light directly on the table, beneath the light bulb. But on the other side of the table, it would be in darkness.
Okay. Oh my goodness. I have to say that I really am appalled that even people who don't know what they're saying, and maybe they just get caught up and they say stuff that, but look, this gotta be intentional. He must know he doesn't know what he's talking about. And therefore he's lying on purpose. Because, look, what he just said is that imagine a flashlight above, a table. And it puts out a very strong spotlight. Okay, I'll imagine it. Now why do you want me to imagine that? Because the sun, I think we all know, is spewing out light all around it. It's a central sun. It's not a flashlight. It's not a central beam, one beam of light like a flashlight. And so it would be ridiculous to say that it might be, or to imply that that's the way that it would be. But you see, then he goes on to make another point here. Watch this.
Now, it seems to our mind that if you were on the other side of the table, you would see the light because it's, above the table. But that's not true, because on that part of the table, it's in darkness, meaning that the light isn't physically reaching.
Okay, I think you might have stepped in it this time, but and it pains me to have to point this out, but you have just proven that your theory, for all the world to see, and may this video go make its rounds so that everybody sees that this isn't true. I don't want people to believe in something that's not true. I don't want us to be labeled as quacks and ridiculous idiots and just give up all of the ancient scientists to Copernicus and Ptolemy and Aristotle and Pythagoras. Look, they may have all of them been scoundrels and thieves. But are we going to completely reject the great wisdom of the ancient ones? In fact, the Bible itself. But this point that you've just made, you just stuck your foot in it. Because in the very breath, you just told us that you would see a sharp, this is why you have night and darkness. Because this guy's laughing. He says, wouldn't it be light everywhere? And he's saying, no, it wouldn't be light everywhere. It's like a spotlight. Okay, well, that doesn't make any sense because the sun's not like a spotlight. But let's say that it is because you just said it was. So we've got to believe you now. And then you show us, well, you literally show us and demonstrate that your analogy completely proves the opposite point. Because you say that you wouldn't be able to see, well, wouldn't you be able to see the light shining down from the sky? And therefore, okay, maybe if it was a spotlight, there would be a distinction between night and darkness still. But you'd still be able to see the light shining if it's a flat surface, because it doesn't go around the other side of the earth, so you'd still see the light shining down. Now he's saying, oh, but you wouldn't see it because you're in the darkness. But then he shows a demonstration, and take a look at this, and you can literally see the light shining from the top, even though you're in the darkness. From your vantage point over here in this dark place, you can still see the light shining down over there because you're on a disc, a plane, and therefore you don't go around the other side of the ball, so you can still see. Even if the light doesn't shine on you, you can still see in the distance the light shining down. Look at this.
That part of the tabletop.
Well, there you go. Okay. My point here is not that the earth therefore must be a sphere. My point is that all these arguments that these individuals are making, these distinguished individuals that are promoting the flat earth as a real scientifically based truth, it's not more true. In fact, it's far less true. I mean, with every science or anything we're going to figure out in life, there may be things we don't know. There may be errors in some of the judgments of the scientists. I don't like NASA. They're lying to us about everything. But they're not lying to us about 1 and 1 is 2. They didn't tell Aristotle 600 B or 500 BC what to say. They didn't tell Pythagoras or Newton. Newton was a Christian. He was a good man. They weren't lying. They may have been wrong, but they have good evidence for what they were presenting. And the evidence has been building for thousands of years. And this goes back to the ancient esoteric priesthood established by the divine being who set down truths and made the stars for to determine seasons and years and times, and they understood the language of the Hebrew and the Greek and the petroglyphs and the hieroglyphs and the cuneiform, and they knew what they were talking about. And so the world has understood these truths for a long time. Yes, because the Catholic Church burned all the books and libraries and murdered all the wise ones. We forgot some of this stuff, and now we don't even know what astrology is, and we don't understand the cosmology of the universe that we live in. But we still gather some things. Some things we think and believe it's wrong. Darwin was wrong. Freud is wrong. But these guys that are saying that the earth is definitely flat, and they're giving the evidence, these little points that they're making, they're obviously speaking in generalities. They're not giving any real evidence. And their observations are skewed and they're wrong. The guy contradicts himself in his own statement in a period of 2 minutes, in a 2-minute clip. He says that you couldn't see the sun shining down from the sky because you're in the darkness over here. And then he shows a demonstration, and you can definitely see a table with a light hanging over it. And as we said, so then what is the law that says that a light would shine down like a spotlight, do a 360 degree in the middle of this disc? And why is it a disc? And why are we living on a disc? And why is, none of the stuff that they're saying they believe makes any sense. They don't have any proof for it. And their observations to say that it must be true are completely faulty. They're in error. Now, I don't want to ridicule people, and I'm not trying to single anybody out and ridicule anybody. In fact, the 2 or 3 people that we've seen here on these clips, these are not the people that I was upset with. This other very intelligent man that's gone bonkers now and is going everywhere running around teaching this stuff. And he's got thousands of people all running around like he's so smart because he thinks the world is flat. And I'm just pointing out that, no, we're going in the wrong direction. If you want to know synchronicity, if you want to understand astrology and and astrotheology, my friends, we need to base it on truth. And I love you, man. But we got to stick to the truth, and we can't be proud. We have to recognize it when we're wrong. We can't be using half-truths and outright lies to teach something to try and prove the devil wrong. If we're going to prove the devil wrong, let's stick with truth. That's all I'm saying. So, now, the reason that I'm trying again to make this video to show that the flat earth theory is wrong is not to show that I'm for NASA. You guys know I'm not. But this is preliminary because in one or two more videos I am going to tell you. I was telling you guys the other day, I am going to do a video to lay it out as to what the real cosmology of the universe actually is. And it will blow your mind when you find out. We've already gotten into it a little bit. There's a wormhole at each end of the earth. And that's as far as we'll go today. I'm going to go ahead and end it here because we're well over an hour. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.